Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. I've heard from fans of thrillers and true crime who tell me there's something comforting about the form. Which I suppose there's some irony there, but I get it, and they're not alone. The genre does gangbusters on the bestsellers list. In a bit, we'll hear about a novel that blends memoir and true crime. But first, we've got two big names on the pod, Harlan Coben and Reese Witherspoon. They work together on the new thriller Gone Before Goodbye. And in this interview with NPR's Mary Louise Kelly, they actually touch on what makes popular fiction so important for society today. That's ahead.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Indeed. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed's sponsored jobs. Claim a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/NPR. Terms and conditions apply. This message comes from Capital One Commercial Bank. Your business requires commercial banking solutions that prioritize your long-term success. With Capital One, get a full suite of financial products and services tailored to meet your needs today and goals for tomorrow. Learn more at CapitalOne.com/commercial. Member FDIC.
If you, like me, are a Harlan Coben fan, you're in good company. Just about everything he writes ends up on the bestseller lists. He's got 90 million books in print worldwide. But even Harlan stopped in his tracks when he got a call one day asking if he wanted to collaborate.
It sounds so braggy for me to say, well, Reese Witherspoon called and said she wanted to meet about an idea. And I was just a little wary. I'm not necessarily the guy who collaborates on novels. Novel is a very solitary activity, and it's, where I spend most of my life alone.
You haven't collaborated on one before, is that right?
Never with a novel.
Well, collaborate they did. Harlan Coben and the actress and producer Reese Witherspoon have just published a thriller. It's called Gone Before Goodbye. I asked them to tell me how they did it.
Our process was we would meet in person probably every other week for a few hours at his apartment and just talk about teasing it all out. And then Harlan would write and he would send me chapters and I would go back in and say, well, I don't think she'd say it like this. I think she'd say it like that. Or this is amazing. Keep going. So it was a lot of texting. I love to do research too. So I was always sending him articles about artificial hearts being made out of a pig heart or CEOs of companies being I don't even know. I was just sending him all kinds of stuff.
Like dense reading material, and then Harlan is your job. Okay, but how do I do a cliffhanger of a chapter ending out of this?
Yeah, but it was a lot of discussion. At the end of the day, it's like there's an old Yiddish expression that you can't ride two horses with one behind. So I sort of said to Reese in the beginning, like only one hand can actually be on the keyboard at a time, and they should be mine just because, I've done that part before. And so, I sent her things constantly. She would comment back. We would discuss it. And we were both obsessed with it.
Okay, so let's apply all this to the main character. This is a woman. It's a surgeon. Her name is Maggie McCabe. Reese, what else should we know about her?
Maggie, gosh. Maggie was, for me, a character as vivid and real as any character I've ever played in a movie. She was a military surgeon, and when you start the novel, she's lost her medical license. She's really down on her luck. She's deeply in debt. You kind of don't know why, but you're going to find out. And I wanted to set her up in a way that we understood that she was extremely good at what she did, but she was really down on her luck.
Yeah.
It starts off in a way that I think you understand why she decides to take on this unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime offer to go to Russia and perform a surgery on a high net worth person who she has no understanding of what it would entail and what is about to happen to her.
She's an appealing character to me. She's really tough, as you learn early on. She's also very feminine. Reese, read me. There are a few lines that I was chuckling at. This is page 49. It's the few lines that begin with "she hangs up."
Oh, yeah. Okay. She hangs up and throws on black jeans, boots, a denim shirt, and a blazer. It's a massive mind melt that never seems to have a clear answer. Never be too provocative, but never be too stuffy. Oh, and have a sense of style and always know what's trending so you don't appear, gasp, out of date. always trying to find the right balance between feminine and practical. Utterly exhausting.
I'm laughing. I'm also thinking, preach. Am I right in detecting maybe you wrote that part, that only a woman could have written that?
That was part of it. Harlan was like, I need you to write this.
I'm like, what is she wearing? What is she wearing here, Reese?
But he said, what is she wearing? And for me, it's like, here's the constant mental math that women are doing every day of their lives. To be considered professional, but not to be too sexualized. And then, are you age appropriate? And also, she's a woman who's very serious about her job and is frequently in places where she's underestimated. So it's a full exploration into what is it like to have to just get up and get dressed as a woman, whereas guys just put on their pants and their shirts.
Yeah, exactly. That scene for the guy would have been khakis and a white button-down. Next, my favorite character, much as I loved Maggie, was Pork Chop. Harlan, tell us about Pork Chop. Spelled like the cut of meat, by the way.
Yeah, it's
Pork Chop is his name.
Pork Chop is Maggie's father-in-law, who is sort of a biker dude with a very modern attitude about that whole thing, and is sort of both zen and tough and dark. And I think that Reese and I had a blast sort of creating him. You know, it's funny, when you're working with someone like Reese Witherspoon, who knows so much about both story and acting, there was times we would be in the room, and I could almost tell she was turning into Maggie a little bit. And I would kind of be like, ooh, Maggie's in the room with me right now. This is a chance for me to get some good information. Mm-hmm. And we really wanted her to have this kind of banter and relationship that would bring out a lot about her with somebody. And Pork Chop ended up being that perfect guy. I actually compare him sometimes to Jennifer Coolidge in Legally Blonde, just someone stealing scenes away when at will, kind of a thing.
Well, he keeps roaring in on a motorcycle, and he's got a crazy, speaking of clothes, he's got some crazy wardrobe choices, so there's that.
Yeah, I think those were more mine, but yeah.
So you two, obviously, between you and in different ways, have done so much to support books and writers and reading over the years. I mean, Harlan, we nodded to your 90 million in print and counting, and Reese's book club, which a lot of people may be familiar with. My question to each of you, do books feel more important than ever in a moment when our country is so divided over so many things, but we can all come together and we still love a good story?
I mean, absolutely. I think reading has never been more important. In many ways. First of all, there's been now scientific studies that show that if you read a book at night rather than scrolling on your phone, if you just read 5 minutes a day, it improves your mental health, it helps you sleep, it gives you clarity. Telling stories like this, reading a novel, we all know this is good for us. And we all know it gives us empathy, which can help all sides. And it is some place where we can all go together. Well, we talk a lot about this book. I think Reese and I also want this book to be that book. You know, we want Gone Before Goodbye to be that book you take to bed at 11 o'clock at night, say, I'm only going to read for 10 minutes, and it's 4 or 5 in the morning, and you've just had to keep reading to find out what happened to Maggie and Pork Chop and the rest, and you're deliriously happy.
I mean, I guess the flip side, Reese, does writing fiction, did it ever feel beside the point on mornings when you wake up and the world feels like a dumpster fire?
No, I think it's more important than ever, just to echo what Harlan said. I'll add on that I think book clubs are really important.
Yeah.
Actually sitting together in a common space and socializing ideas and talking them out and saying, I've had this experience that was inside this book. Have you? And I think in this world of disconnection, there's nothing more important than connecting and talking about what are your personal opinions. And literature facilitates those conversations.
Yeah. That's Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben talking about the new novel they have co-authored, Gone Before Goodbye. Reese, Harlan, thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks very much.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more.
Chris Kraus's new book, The Four Spent the Day Together, is fiction, and it does take a ripped-from-the-headlines approach to its plot. But in this interview with NPR's Elissa Nadworny, Kraus talks about her research for the book and how she found so much of her own story in it. Here's Elissa.
A change of location can offer a new chapter, or the illusion of one. In the new novel, The Four Spent the Day Together by Chris Kraus, we meet the main character, Kat Green, as a child who's moved to a small Connecticut town, then again when she's an adult on the Minnesota Iron Range, and finally when she meets other people from that area whose lives are more precarious than her own. Addiction, art, and social class are all explored in this work of autofiction, part autobiography, part crime thriller. You may know her from her book I Love Dick or the TV show based on it. Chris Kraus joins us now. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, your stories contain a lot of true personal elements. So, let's start with the protagonist, Kat Green. How much of her is you?
Well, she's my avatar. Kat Green is me at the moment of the story.
Does it happen in real time, or did you go in having a specific story to kind of dig up from your past?
Well, when I decided to write the novel, initially I thought I was going to just write about the crime. That was my first project, to write a true crime book about the incident on the Nagamo Trail on the Iron Range. But as I researched it, and I spent about 2.5 years researching it, really at the beginning of the research process, I realized two things. First, that I wasn't going to get enough interior material from all of the people involved to make the novel that I would ideally want to write. And second, I just sort of stumbled and started tripping back on my own past because the town of Harding felt so similar. I felt this powerful deja vu to the little blue-collar town in Connecticut that my family had lived in while I was growing up.
Wow. Let's talk about place. The book is told in those 3 sections. In each new location, there's kind of this hope that the change of location is going to make life better. Can you talk a little bit about that illusion or desire?
On the Iron Range, researching the case, I talked to hundreds of people, probably more. And a phrase that came up over and over was, I moved here to make a fresh start. Over and over, people are making these fresh starts. And so I very consciously use that phrase multiple times in the book. There's something so poignant about it. It's so ill-fated from the start. But in the first part of the book, part 1, it's about the lives of Kat's parents in the 1940s and 50s. They moved from the Bronx to Connecticut. There's this idea that it's going to be this huge improvement, this huge change of life. And just by saying Connecticut, they're going to, it has this magical cachet that's going to be so elevating and life-changing. And of course, it wasn't at all. The commute was 4.5 hours for Jasper, the father. And Emma, the mother, who's really only ever known the Bronx, found it so incredibly lonely and alienating to be in a small white working class town where everybody went to grade school together and they have no desire to make any new friends.
Part 3 is mostly about a murder that takes place on the Iron Range. And you take the title from what I presume is the real news item on it, The Four Spent the Day Together?
The case was very well covered in the local newspapers. And it was in the reportage, I think, from Duluth that I saw the phrase, The Four Spent the Day Together, as a way of recapping the events of the kidnapping and murder. And that struck me as so quaint. I grew up partly in New Zealand. My parents emigrated to New Zealand, and it seemed like a kind of phrase that I would have heard in New Zealand at the time of growing up. I mean, sort of a little kind of anachronistic British, almost 19th century, the four spent the day together, which is a very bizarre way to describe a kidnapping that takes place on methamphetamine.
Does that mean that there's kind of like duality in life, that there's harmony with tragedy, that there's like ordinary with extraordinary? Like, what does that say to you? What does that raise for you?
Well, I just thought it was a very funny turn of phrase. And it was the day rather than the murder that initially interested me in the crime. You know, there were a lot of murders up there. If it had just been bang, bang, you're dead in the living room or on the sidewalk, wouldn't have interested me so much. But the idea, the durational nature of it, and wondering what went on for the 16 or 18 hours that these people spent together, that was the mystery that I wanted to solve. And that wasn't a mystery that interested the police very much. I mean, of course, they're looking for a conviction. The police are working for the prosecution, and the prosecution are seeking a conviction. So they're only looking for the incidents, the material, the phrases that can lead to the conviction. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for everything else. You know, everything ambient, everything that kind of captures what the relationships were, what the vibe was between the kids, how the tempo of the day shifted. That was what I was interested in.
Yeah. Did you find the answers that you were looking for by writing this book?
No, nobody has the answers. I mean, the big question is, how did the murder change from a sort of mad idea that you have while you're high to a fait accompli over the course of the kidnapping? And there's no answer for that. Couldn't really locate it. There were multiple times when the victim could have left, but he didn't. They were all getting high together at multiple times in multiple locations. So, I mean, the conclusion is really that it was just became like a shared hallucination. And I think that's a very adolescent thing. I remember that from my own adolescence. I mean, maybe not to this degree, and maybe not on as extreme drugs. Everything now is more brutal, more extreme. Everything is amplified. But the giddiness and the complicity and the collusion of being in this bubble of a little group, and you're doing everything together, and you're kind of creating a group mind together, and it feels absolutely omnipotent. But the answer as to why did this happen, I don't see an answer for that. The guy who owned the rental property that the murder took place in, he deals a lot with these kids because he rents to them. And at one point we're talking, and he said, the difference now is there's this depravity at the heart of everything, and I don't know where it comes from. I can't locate it, and I don't know how to stop it. So to me, that's the biggest unanswerable question.
Well, Chris Kraus, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Chris Kraus's new novel is The Four Spent the Day Together.
That's it for this week on NPR's Book of the Day. And if you want more, you can sign up for our newsletter at npr.org/newsletter/books. I'm Andrew Limbong. This podcast is produced by Chloe Weiner and edited by Megan Sullivan with help from Ivy Buck. Our founding editor is Petra Mayer. The show elements for this week were produced and edited by Natalie Winston, Adriana Gallardo, Barry Gardner, Lydia Rose, Todd Munt, Emiko Tamagawa, Jenna Griffiths, Catherine Welch, Elena Burnett, Sarah Handel, and Justine Kennan. Yolanda Sanguini is our executive producer. Thanks for listening.
This message comes from REI Co-op. Don't be surprised when you're this season's best gift giver. REI's curated outdoor gear takes the guesswork out of gifting, so you won't be surprised, but they will. Give without guessing. Shop in-store or at rei.com. This message comes from Bombas. You need better socks and slippers and underwear because you should love what you wear every day. One purchased equals one donated. Go to bombas.com/NPR and use code NPR for 20% off. This message comes from REI Co-op. Don't be surprised when you're this season's best gift giver. With REI's curated selection of outdoor gear, from top-rated running shoes to merino wool base layers, you don't have to guess. REI makes it easy to find the gear that gets them out there. It gets even easier with trusted advice and recommendations from REI's outdoor pros in over 190 stores. So when you gift them something they'll actually use, you won't be surprised. but they will. This season, give without guessing. Shop in-store or head to rei.com.